What is going on, everybody? I am back with another episode of Do It, Skip It, or Block It at the request of actually quite a few of you, since Konar has been released with the Kebos Lowlands, however you say that. But yeah, so I'm going to be going through all of Konar's tasks, whether they're just the individual NPC or the multiple locations that you can actually kill them. And I'm going to be telling you guys which ones you should do, which ones you should skip, and which ones you should block. So if you're checking out this video and you're like, who is Konar? Konar is the new Slayer Master who is located on top of Mount Karum. I don't know if I said that right, but we're going to go with that. And you must have a Slayer level of 75 to be assigned a Slayer task from her. The quickest way to get to Konar is via the Rada's Blessing 3 or 4, but that does require the Hard or Elite Diary, respectively, to get that teleport out of the Blessing. You can also get there using the Fairy Ring code CIR, which will take you to the brand new Fairy Ring near the Farming Guild. From there, you will hop up the Agility shortcut, which the bottom Agility shortcut doesn't really require a higher level, but to get up the second half of the Agility shortcut, it is level 62 Agility, but if you don't have it, you can just run around. It'll just take you a little extra time. So, on to the Slayer points that Konar gives. Konar now gives the best Slayer points in the game, even without the diary done. So here on the screen now, you can see every task, you get 18 points from Konar, compared to 15 from Duradel, and 12 from Neve, or 15 if you have the diary done, to get that from Neve or Steve, whichever one you have, depending on the quest that you've completed. Every 10th task, you will get 90 points, 50th 270, 100th 450, 250th 630, and every 1000th 900. On the right side of this little diagram here, if you have the Elite Diary done, you will get 20 points every task, 100 every 10th, 300 every 50th, 500 every 100th, 700 every 250th, and 1000 points every 1000th task. Additionally, Konar does have her own drop table, and this goes along with killing the NPCs that you're assigned in a specific area of RuneScape. On the screen here, you can see the drop table. Now, the drop table used to be better, but it was nerfed to be about 30% less because the drops that people were getting from it were just so common and ridiculously broken. It was too good of money, so they nerfed that. But this is the updated drop table here, and you can see on here you'll get a plethora of different stuff, whether it's related to rune armor, some resources, seeds, pure essence, and uniquely there is a broken dragon hasta on her drop table, which is a drop rate of 1 in 200. And you will also be able to get the Dusk Mystic set, which each piece is a drop rate of 1 in 1000. So it is pretty rare. Doesn't really go for that much over a normal Mystic set, but it is a little bit more expensive. So if you're killing Konar tasks, NPCs, you will be able to see this drop table. Random drops pop up every now and then, so make sure you keep an eye out for those. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into what you should do, what you should skip, and what you should block. And for the sake of this video, I'm going to assume that everyone has everything unlocked and they have the Slayer level to do all of these, because if we didn't assume that, well, then we'd be getting into a lot of other stuff, which I don't really think it would be effective to get into. So we're just going to assume everything is unlocked and you have 99 Slayer for the sake of this video. So Konar assigns tasks with a task weight of 10 all the way down to a task weight of 2. And if you don't know what task weight is, you can check out one of my more older videos and I explain what task weight is. But for this, it's basically the chances you have of getting that as a task. So I'm going to be going through what your task weights are, what your percentage chance is, and let's get going. Starting off at the top with a task weight of 10, you will have a 4% chance of getting these as a task from Konar. Drakes, I'm going to say block these right off the bat. They do have a decent defense level, which is 120. Their melee defensive stats are plus 60 and plus 100 to range. Now the blowpipe is pretty good here, but their drop table is not that great. If you do use the blowpipe here, you're going to be using darts and scales, which does add up, so you're probably going to break even, maybe go a little bit over if you do get lucky enough to get some dragon throwing axes or dragon knives. Up next is going to be Hydras, and these require a Slayer level of 95. But if you do have 95, you're going to want to head over to the Alchemical Hydra because it is pretty good money, somewhere around 100 to 125k per kill, and they do drop the Hydra's Claw, which is made into the Dragon Hunter Lance. Up next is going to be Worms, and I am going to say do these as well because they are kind of low level. Their defense level isn't that high. They are a quick task, and they do have the chance to drop the Dragon Sword and the Dragon Harpoon and the Dragon Throwing Axes and the Dragon Knives. Moving into NPC tasks with a task weight of 9, you will have a 3.6% chance to get assigned any one of these as a task. First up, Abyssal Demons. Obviously, you're going to want to do Abyssal Demons just because they drop those Abyssal Whips. They are 1 in 512, but hey, when you see one on the ground, it is pretty nice. You can get assigned these in the Catacombs of Konar, the Abyssal area, and the Slayer Tower. If you are assigned these in the Abyssal area, you can also kill the Abyssal Sire. Next is going to be Black Demons, and I'm going to say block these. They have a high task weight, and most of you are going to be like, what? Why? Why not Demonic Gorillas? Well, the Catacombs of Konar, Chasm of Fire, Taverley Dungeon, and the Brimhaven Dungeon are where Black Demons are located. You cannot kill the Demonic Gorillas in place of Black Demons on a Konar task. Next is going to be Bloodvelds, and there's 2 locations I'm going to say do these, and 2 locations that I'm going to say skip these. In the Catacombs of Konar, you can kill the mutated Bloodvelds, which are very good XP an hour. They do drop a lot of blood runes, and it is a multi-combat zone. You can attack a lot of them at the same time and AFK for a while. I'm also going to say do them in the Stronghold Slayer dungeon because you can cannon them. If you want to cannon them, you can get your task over with quick. As far as the God Wars dungeon, probably don't want to kill them there because they are kind of spread out, a little bit higher level. And in the Slayer Tower, not really much for drops there. They drop blood runes every now and then, and if you're lucky, you might see a rune med helm or 2. Next is going to be the Cave Kraken with a task weight of 9 also. Obviously, you're going to want to kill the Cave Kraken. You pretty much just stand there, fire some magic blasts at it, and it's free money. Next up is going to be Fire Giants, and you're going to want to block these as well. Fire Giants don't have that great of drops, and you can kill them in the Karum Slayer Dungeon, the Brimhaven Dungeon, the Waterfall Dungeon, Stronghold Slayer Dungeon, and the Catacombs of Konar. Not going to make much money here, just block these. Up next is going to be the Calphites, and if you are hunting that Calphite pet or the Calphite head, you are definitely going to want to do these at the Calphite Queen if you're assigned the task in the Calphite Lair. Following that is going to be the Calphite Cave, which I'm going to say skip, but you can do this if you want. You can kill the Calphite workers pretty quickly to get some quick points, but as for me, I have an abundance of Slayer points, so I always skip them. Moving right along into tasks with a task weight of 8, you will have a 3.2% chance to be assigned any one of these as a task. First one up is going to be boss tasks. Now, obviously, you're going to want to do these. You're trying to make money, so you might as well do the boss tasks, and these are also area specific, but RuneScape bosses only reside in their own places, such as the Abyssal Sire, which is in the Abyssal Plain, Cerberus, which is in the Taverley Dungeon, etc. Moving on there is going to be the Dagonoths, and if you get Dagonoths in the Catacombs of Konar or the Lighthouse, probably going to want to skip them, not going to make much money, but if you are lucky enough to get them assigned on Waterbirth Island, then you can turn that into a Dagonoth King's task and make a pretty penny if you're lucky with Berserker and Archer's Rings. Up next is going to be Hellhounds, and this has 5 locations, 4 of which you are going to want to skip. The Karum Slayer Dungeon, Catacombs of Konar, Stronghold Slayer Dungeon, and Witchhaven Dungeon. Skip all of those. If you are assigned them in the Taverley Dungeon, you are probably going to want to do them at Cerberus for a chance at that juicy Primordial Crystal. Next and last for task weight of 8 is going to be Lizardmen. You can kill the Lizardmen Shaman in the Lizardmen Canyon and the Kibos Swamp in the Lizardman Settlement, and you're probably going to want to do those because you can get some decent loot and have a shot at a Dragon Warhammer. If you get assigned them at the Battlefront, you're going to want to skip them because there are no Lizardmen Shaman there. On into the tasks with a task weight of 7, you will have a 2.8% chance to be assigned any one of these as a task. First up is going to be Greater Demons, and you're going to want to block these. Greater Demons are assigned in the Catacombs of Konar, the Chasm of Fire, the Taverley Dungeon, and the Karum Slayer Dungeon, none of which you can do God Wars at, so that is going to be a blocked task. Next up, Neckrails in the Catacombs of Konar and the Slayer Tower. I'm going to say do both of these because in the Catacombs of Konar, if you are bursting or barraging them, you can see a profit depending on which kind of mage gear and mage damage boosting gear that you're using. And in the Slayer Tower, you are always going to see a profit because they are around 600 to 700k an hour in their drops. Next up, Smoke Devils, and these are only in one location in the Smoke Devil Dungeon. If you do get this, you're probably going to want to do it at the Thermonuclear Smoke Devil. Get a chance at that Smoke Battle Staff and the pet. Next up is going to be tasks with a task weight of 6, and you will have a 2.4% chance of getting any one of these as a task. First task with a task weight of 6, Aberrant Specters. There are 3 locations you can be assigned these: Catacombs of Konar, the Slayer Tower, and the Stronghold Slayer Cave. I'm going to say skip the first one in the Catacombs of Konar because they are actually the Deviant Specters, which do have a decent defense level, and they do take a while to kill with not that much return on profit. Slayer Tower, definitely going to want to do them. If you're higher combat level, you can usually 3 or 4 hit most of them. They do have a low defense level, not too high HP, and in the Stronghold Slayer Cave, you can set up a cannon, knock this task out really quick for some really quick points. Up next is going to be AVNCs, and if you get assigned these, they can only be assigned in the God Wars dungeon. You're going to want to head straight to Armadillo because Armadillo prices are up, so if you happen to get one of those chest plate or chain skirts, you are going to be making some bank. Black Dragons, 4 places for this, 2 you're going to want to do, and 2 you're going to want to skip. Catacombs of Konar, you can kill the brutal black dragons, which can net you a decent amount of profit, anywhere between 600 and 1.1 mil per hour, depending on what range weapon you are using. You will also want to do them in the Myth-Skilled dungeon if you have access to it, because it is very close to a bank, and you can bank all those dragon bones and black dragon hinds for a little bit of extra cash. As far as the Evil Chicken's lair and the Taverley dungeon go, they are pretty far from a bank and a teleport spot. Gonna want to skip those. Next is going to be the Dust Devils, and you can do these in the Catacombs of Konar or the Smoke Dungeon. If you do them in the Catacombs of Konar, you can probably see somewhere between 3 and 500k GP for a task. It is multi, you can aggro a lot of them, stand there while they attack you, and go to town. If you do get them in the Smoke Dungeon, skip those because they are lower level, their drops are not as good. Up next is going to be the Gargoyles, and you can do these in the Slayer Tower. Now you can choose between the Grotesque Guardians boss or the regular Gargoyles because their GP per hour is just about the same. But if you do the boss, you can have a chance at a Dark Tourmaline Core or the pet. Next, with a task weight of 6 and another block task, is going to be Jellies. You can get these in the Catacombs of Konar or the Fremennik Slayer Dungeon, and they don't really drop anything, either of them. The ones that are in the Catacombs of Konar do drop rune full helms and kite shields, I believe, but it's not really that much cash. And our last block task, assuming you have all 6 spots open, is going to be Trolls, which you can do in the Troll Stronghold, Keldegrim, Death Plateau, and south of Mount Quidamortum. But again, those don't really make you any profit, so that is going to be my final block task for Konar. Moving down the list, we are at tasks with a task weight of 5, and there is a bunch of these. You will have a 2% chance of being assigned any one of these as a task. First up, Adamant Dragons, and I'm going to say do these because they don't really give that many of them in a task, but you could also have a shot at the dragon limbs for the dragon crossbow, as well as one of the dragon armor pieces to make the dragon kite shield. Next is going to be Anku, and I'm going to say skip all of these in the Stronghold of Security, the Stronghold Slayer Dungeon, and the Catacombs of Konar. They don't really give you any profit, so it's kind of a waste of time, in my opinion. Next is going to be Bronze Dragons. Bronze Dragons also don't drop anything. You can kill them in the Catacombs of Konar and the Brimhaven Dungeon, so skip those as well. Up next is going to be Dark Beasts, which you can kill in the Mourner Tunnels or the Catacombs of Konar. Now, if you don't have this task extended, you're only going to get between like 10 and 20, so you can knock this task out quickly. If you do have it extended, you can skip it, but hey, that was your own fault for extending the task like I did. Next is going to be the Fossil Island Wyverns, and if you do get these, you should probably go over there and kill the Ancient Wyverns for a shot at that Visage drop for that Magic Dragonfire shield. But if you don't have that high of a Slayer level, you can also kill the other ones, but I would suggest that you not do that because their GP per hour isn't very good, and they do hit pretty decently. So I'm only going to say do this if you can kill the Ancient Wyverns. Next is going to be Iron Dragons, again in the Catacombs of Konar and the Brimhaven Dungeon. Skip these because you're not going to make much profit. Next is going to be Mithril Dragons, which are also assigned in a smaller amount, but you will have a chance at a Dragon Full Helm, 1 in 32,000 by the way, or some Chewed Bones. If you use the Chewed Bones, your chances at a Dragon Full Helm decreases to 1 in 250, so they are pretty expensive, so you might want to give it a shot. Red Dragons, I'm going to say skip these in the Brimhaven Dungeon because it is pretty far from a bank, but if you can do them in the Catacombs of Konar or the Myth Guild Dungeon, you can make some decent GP. The Myth Guild Dungeon is close to a bank, and the Catacombs of Konar drop 2 hides and 1 bone per kill, as well as a shot at a Draconic Visage. Rune Dragons, you're going to kill these in the Lithrican Vault, and you are definitely going to want to do these because they do drop the Dragon Limbs, Draconic Visage, and 2 pieces to the Dragon Plate Body. Next is going to be Skeletal Wyverns. Everybody loves Skeletal Wyverns, and they do have a decent drop table. You can make a decent amount of GP even if you bank the bones in a decent amount of time. And last on the list with a task weight of 5 is going to be Steel Dragons, which are once again in the Catacombs of Konar and Brimhaven Dungeon. I'm going to say skip these because you don't make that much money. Maybe you get lucky and get a Draconic Visage, but in my opinion, skip these. Up next, our only task with a task weight of 4, which you will have a 1.6% chance of getting, is going to be blue dragons. You can kill these in 4 places: the Ogre Enclave, Catacombs of Konar, the Taverley Dungeon, and the Mythskill Dungeon. As far as actually doing them, if you get them in the Catacombs of Konar, you can do them there. They're not that strong, and if you have a decent ranging level, you can knock the task out in no time at all for 2 hides and 1 bone per kill. You can also do them again in the Mythskill Dungeon, pretty close to a bank. But if you get assigned them in the Ogre Enclave or the Taverley Dungeon, they are a decent trek from a bank, so I say skip them there. Next up, tasks with a task weight of 3, and you'll have a 1.2% chance of getting assigned these as a task. Kurasks, the only location you can kill them is going to be in the Fremennik Slayer Dungeon, and I say do these. You can make somewhere between probably 4 and 600k per task. And Turoths, these are also only located in the Fremennik Slayer Dungeon. I'm going to say skip these because they are horrible GP per hour, waste of time in my opinion. And last but not least, our tasks with a task weight of 2. You're going to have a 0.8% chance to get any one of these as a task. First up is going to be Brine Rats, and these are only able to be slayed in the Brine Rat Cavern. Skip these. They do drop the Brine Saver, but it's really not worth going down there just for a 200k drop. Next up, mutated Zygamites, which you can kill on Fossil Island or in Zenaris, but again, these drop pretty much nothing, so this is absolutely skip these. You don't get them that often, so just go ahead and burn the points and skip them. And last but not least, Water Fiends, which you can kill in the Ancient Cavern or in Kraken Cove. Again, these also have a terrible drop table. You're not going to make any money, so waste the points and skip them. Alright guys, that is going to wrap it up. This is the Do It, Skip It, or Block It episode for Konar, who is the new Slayer Master, if you didn't hear me say that like 6 other times. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it can point you in the right direction if you are looking to make some cash with Konar, which, if you're using Konar and trying to hit that special drop table, you probably are trying to make some money. So, if you like this video, please hit that thumbs up down below. They help the video's popularity immensely. If you haven't done so yet, tap that subscribe button on your way out. All of your support means a ton to me. You can also check out the description below to check out my Patreon page, which you can pledge to keep my channel running, get new content pumped out faster. With that guys, I will see you guys on the next video. Take it easy everybody.